Guy breaks into my house. PCP.
This is the point of view of myself, Dad, and my sister. This was about 2 years ago when I was 16. It was Monday morning, like around 6 a.m. My dad, two sisters, and myself were at home sleeping while my mom was out at the gym. My sister had heard someone ring the doorbell. She was about to get up and answer it when she heard my dad's footsteps heading towards the door, so she went back to sleep. That's when she heard my dad's footsteps go from walking to pacing back and forth around the house. She heard my dad talking to the cops saying that someone was on our front lawn and if they can come get him. Fast forward to almost a half hour later, and that's when I woke up to my dad screaming. At first I was thinking that my parents were fighting, but then I heard a window break from my parents' room. That's when I got up from bed, got a bat, and went out. And just as I was getting out from my room, and my dad was closing his door to his room, I saw this huge guy. He reminded me of Mr. T, climbing inside through the window. As my dad was shutting the door, he put his feet up against a file cabinet we have, and his back towards the door, with a katana samurai sword in hand. Avid knife collector and sword collector, keeping the guy out of the rest of the house. While my dad was doing this, he was talking, screaming to the 911 operator, saying that this was the third time he'd called the cops and nobody had shown up, and the guy was inside our house. I told my dad to give me the phone because I was a little more calm, and I answered the questions of the operator. That's when the guy started pushing against the door, trying to get through, and my dad told me to get back and protect my sisters if the guy were to get through, so I did. Luckily, the man had stopped pushing the door, and the cops at last got there. Two cops went inside the room with tasers drawn and told the man to get on the floor. He just looked at them and started walking towards them, and that's when the cops fired their tasers, and all the guy did was look at the darts and say, "Ow," and then proceeded to take them off. At the end, the cops were able to talk him down and get him in cuffs. The cops told us he might have been on PCP and was just looking for a place to sleep because he only had on shoes and shorts. What my dad told us afterwards was that the man had opened the side door and went around the back and went inside the dog's house to sleep. We used to have a big husky before he passed away, and then afterwards got on my scooter I'd left outside and smashed my parents' window. He climbed in and got my mom's iPad and went onto YouTube looking at the most popular videos. My mom got home to a scene of 6 squad cars and 2 fire trucks outside of the house. What's crazy is that my dad was going to the gym as well, but he got lazy and slept in. I don't know what would have happened if my dad wasn't there, but I am grateful he was. Also, glad that the man didn't break in through the front, because then we would have had to fight this guy since he would have been near my sister's room. When they were taking him out, the cops and paramedics saw that he was too big to fit with the gurney, so they told him that he was going to have to walk, and he says, "Aw man, you gonna make me walk?" I don't know what exactly happened to him afterwards, but big guy that broke into my house that reminded me of Mr. T. Let's hope we never meet again.
I don't trust taxi drivers.
I grew up in a small, remote town. We had no public transport except a random bus that showed up once a week to take you in or out of town. I first left home at 17 and moved to a large town. When working, I often finished work between 12 to 4 in the morning. If I didn't feel like walking or I couldn't get a ride home, I would call a taxi. On several occasions, I encountered drivers that would seemingly purposely drive me to the wrong places, despite their navman and my directions, for extra cash. Or on one occasion when I had two $50 notes stuck together, and the cab driver tried to take both, telling me I gave him one. At the time, I lived with a housemate who was hardly home, which meant at 17, I basically had an entire house to myself. Despite some incidents with taxi drivers, I wasn't aware of how damn right creepy some of them are. I'm in my 20s now, and people I've encountered tell me how some taxi drivers tried to molest them in the cab, rob them, kidnap them, etc. With my story, it was about 1 to 2 in the morning. I caught a cab and the driver was asking me fairly basic questions like most do, such as, "What do you do for a living? Are you local?" etc. The chat eventually changed to about where I was living. I made a comment that like 3 weeks out of the month, I get the house to myself, which the driver replied, "You probably shouldn't tell people that." Then somehow the air felt like it was sucked out, and I stopped talking to him. He did continue trying to get me talking. After I paid, he sat in the taxi with the lights on in the driveway. I originally thought that he was turning around, but he was there for ages. I heard a car door open and close when I was upstairs, and I ignored it until I heard the neighbor's dog bark. With the dog, it lived in the backyard of the neighbor's house. Whenever someone went through our side gate to our backyard, it would start barking. I freaked out and immediately turned out all the lights in the house. I also got my bedside weapon, then listened because I knew someone was in our backyard. I could hear someone trying all the downstairs doors and windows. I started calling the police. When I called the police, I was whispering into the line and ended up talking to the bitchiest woman on earth, who talked to me like trash. Also, no matter how many times I repeated the situation, she was like, "So a taxi driver is at your house? Did you order a cab?" I eventually heard a car door close and the taxi left. After telling Bitchface this, she told me that she'll get me fined if I prank called again. The next day, I found large shoe print tracks all around the house, like someone walked around it several times. I'm 100% sure that the taxi driver was trying to break in, and I don't think it was for a robbery.
Never pee alone on a lonely gravel road.
So I've sat here all day reading a lot of Let's Not Meet posts, and some of them brought up memories of an extremely scary time I had a couple years ago. I was driving back to my college from my family's house after Thanksgiving break. I was traveling through a rural area in the Midwest, and I suddenly had the urge to pee. Badly. I was reading all the road signs I came across to see if there was a nearby town that I could stop at to find a gas station or something to use their restrooms. Unfortunately, the nearest town was 30-ish miles away, and I had to pee so badly. It was unbearable. I finally made the decision to get off at the next exit that I found, even though they don't lead to any towns. Shortly after I pulled off the next exit, I came across a gravel road. I thought this was perfect because I didn't want to get in trouble for exposing myself in front of anybody. It was a very private road. So just so you are all aware, I am a female. It is very difficult for females to pee on the side of the road. I thought the best course of action would be to take my empty McDonald's cup and pee into that. I did just that, inside of my car, just in case anyone drove down the lonely road. I had finished my business and dumped the cup. I did not litter, only dumped the contents into the grass on the side of the road. I was starting my car and getting ready to turn my car around back the way I came, when I saw a bright red car speeding down the road that I was on. It startled me, but they drove right on past. I thought to myself, must be the locals out messing around. I started to drive off and I saw a dingy, rusted red pickup truck coming down the road after the car. They too drove past me. As they passed, though, I saw two male passengers who were staring straight at me. This freaked me out, but I told myself all the more reason to get a move on. I still kept my eye on the pickup truck, though, and I saw them turning around, coming straight at me. This freaked me out so much I decided the best course of action would be to drive in their direction, continuing on the gravel road as opposed to turning around, giving them the opportunity to chase after me. I drove right by them again and saw that they were grinning at me. I was so scared I hit the gas, which on gravel road doesn't do much good. I finally got a grip on the road and headed along the gravel road. I looked in my rearview mirror and they were following me again. I was freaked out. My hands were shaking. My foot was flooring the accelerator, and I reached for my phone. Now, I'm not the person to call 911 in just any situation. In fact, I was scared to call 911 because I was afraid I was just being paranoid. But as I looked in my rearview mirror again and saw them gaining on me, I called the police. When I called the police, the operator picked up and I explained to her what was happening. During this phone call, the men in the pickup truck were so close that I couldn't even see their front tires. I was sliding all around the gravel road, trying to stay on the phone with the operator. She was giving me directions to the nearest town, several miles away. They followed me the entire way there, all the way back until I reached the police station. I saw them turn around very quickly because they knew I was out of their reach. I definitely learned my lesson from this, and I think from now on I'll stick to peeing in public restrooms. So, creepy men in the pickup truck, let's not meet again.